Hey guys, this is Corey from Podfly, and today we're looking at recording Skype calls for your podcast. We will do the demonstration today on a Mac. However, it's not all that different on Windows. The only difference being is the software available to record calls on Windows is a little bit different. The particular program we recommend for Windows would be Pamela for Skype. So pamela.biz will take you there. You can check it out. But we're going to look at the Mac side today and a great program that's used by a lot of podcasters called Ecamm Recorder. Let's take a look at the Mac side of things. We'll go to ecamm.com and look at the Ecamm Recorder that is available to us.
Mac users love Call Recorder, an add-on for Skype that automatically transforms your audio or video calls into movies. Seamlessly integrated, Call Recorder adds a recording window to Skype for Mac, allowing you to automatically save exact reproductions of all incoming and outgoing Skype calls. Calls are saved as QuickTime files, which can be converted to MP3 format or split into separate tracks for easy editing and podcasting. Use Call Recorder to record your video sessions exactly as you see them, or in our unique side-by-side and split-screen modes. Camera shy? There's even an option to just record the remote video. Whether you're an instructor, a podcaster, or just calling to say hello, Call Recorder eliminates the hassle and records reliably. Recording should be this easy. Give Call Recorder a try. Visit ecamm.com and download the demo version today.
There it is, guys, Ecamm Recorder. You can try it for free if you decide you like it. We do recommend you grab a copy. It's only $30, and it is an absolutely phenomenal piece of software. Very simple, very elegant to use. So let's jump into it and see how we can apply it to our podcast. Okay, guys, I've opened up a personal workspace that I like to use as my default for recording Skype calls. And in this case, I've opened up a handful of programs. The first being Adobe Audition. This is what I'm going to use to record my side of the conversation. This is what my microphone is plugged into, and this is my DAW of choice. If you guys like to use Audacity or another DAW, you can feel free. Any of them will work for this purpose. And then beside that, of course, I have Skype opened. And now that I have Ecamm Recorder installed, it also opens the little Ecamm Call Recorder window that I'm going to use to control the call recordings and find my files and change my settings and more. The first thing I need to do is to make sure that I have all of my input settings and output settings correct before I even initiate a call. Let's start with the Adobe Audition side. And I'm going to go to Audition and Preferences. On Windows, that would probably be File and Preferences if I recall. And I'm going to go to Audio Hardware. This is where I'm going to select what my default input and output are going to be. Remember, make this part of a checklist. Create that workflow before you start a podcast. Check your audio settings on Audition number 1. When you've got them ready, check them off. Here in this case, I'm going to use the Scarlett 2i2, which I've shown in previous tutorials is my current USB interface as my input. And my output is going to be the same thing, as I'm going to monitor back through my headphones using the same USB device. Everything else is okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. The next step in Audition is to go ahead and set up that track to record. I'll name it just for keeping things organized. I'll just call this Host. And I'm going to select my input. Again, a mono channel is what we're looking for. There's only one microphone plugged in, so we'll just use the Scarlett 2i2 USB 1. And I can arm the track to record, and you'll see that my voice is ready to go. So I have a good signal going into Adobe Audition. And this is great because it's going to give me an awesome sounding track that I can work with and manipulate, move around, chop up, and do all kinds of cool stuff. Next is to move over to Skype. So I just click on Skype. That'll open up my bar up here where I can do a little bit of work. I'm going to go into the preferences of Skype and double check on my audio and video first that I have what I want my input and output to be. In this case, you'll notice that I've got the Scarlett 2i2 automatically set up to be my input. You do want to use the exact same audio device that you're using for your DAW. Ringing, it's not really important, but you can have it come through the 2i2 as well, so you can hear it through your headphones. And then the speakers I want to have in the 2i2 as well. So that means that when the Skype conversation is going on, I can hear the other side coming back through my headphones and into my mix. When I've installed Ecamm Recorder, I also have in front of me this new recording tab. This is where I can go in and change the settings of Ecamm Recorder. In this case, we're really only focusing on audio. Of course, you can do both at the same time if you want, but we're just going to work here with the audio encoding at AAC compression. If you want to go all the way up to uncompressed, you certainly can. That's going to use a lot more memory and a little bit more processor intensive. But I find for recording a Skype call, especially since we're doing our end raw into Audition, it's fine to use the compression on the other end because it's already coming down the pipe, so to speak, from Skype compressed. So leave it at default for now. Okay, guys, I do have my guest on Skype now. I want to thank Dan for joining me. Dan, are you there?
I am, sir.
Okay, we've got everything laid out. I have my input going into Adobe Audition from my side, and as well I have the Skype call recorder set up. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start my recording in Adobe Audition. So I'm recording my side of the conversation. Then the next part of the workflow is to go to the call recorder and then initiate the call recording there. And you can see the meter is lighting up on the input section. That, of course, is my microphone going back through Skype and also recording into call recorder, simultaneously recording into Adobe Audition. And then if I could get Dan to speak for me a bit, please.
Yes, Corey, I'm happy to say whatever you'd like.
Well, thank you. That's a nice way to work this. The output indicates that Dan is being recorded into the call recorder as well. So Dan, if you're ready, we're going to do a quick little sample interview.
Sure, sounds great.
Okay, interview with Dan in 3, 2. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining the show today. How have you been?
Great. Always a pleasure to join you on the show.
I appreciate this. Today we're doing a little tutorial on Skype call recording. I'm not sure if you do that over there at your studio or not.
We do. It's. I think you probably are a little more professional about it and a little more up to date on all the ins and outs, though.
Well, that is what we do. All right, we got to go to a commercial break, but I want to thank Dan for joining me today. Dan, thanks again.
Not a problem, Corey. Have a great week.
Okay, we have got both sides now. I'm going to press stop on the call recorder, and I'm going to press stop on Adobe Audition. And I have two sides of recording to work with. Thanks again, Dan.
Not a problem.
Okay, we've successfully recorded a test call with Dan via Skype. So now I'm going to go ahead and close a few things out and find those clips that we used in order to split them into 2 tracks to start manipulating his side of the audio along with mine. Remember that Ecamm Recorder is great because it records both sides of the conversation, which is super handy if you want your workflow to be as simple as just using that file and making that your podcast. That's pretty easy. But again, you know, we're here in the specializations and we want to use 2 separate tracks, the guest and the host, on separate channels so we can do different EQing, different processing, and different manipulation of the signal. So in this case, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm just going to disarm that track. I no longer need the recording. Remember, if I'm in a happy place, which I am, I'm going to go Command S or Control S, and that's going to just save my work. Get this guy out of the way here. And I don't need the Skype window open anymore. So here I have my call recorder in front of me, and I'm going to go ahead and look for those tracks by clicking on the magnifying glass. You can change, by the way, in Ecamm Recorder where you're going to save those recordings. In this case, it just keeps a folder called Ecamm Calls, nice and easy to remember. But there it is. There is the track that we have recorded with both sides again of the conversation today at 1 o'clock. And it's nice too because Ecamm automatically names that, the convention being the conversation name, the time that happened, and of course the file type and size. So the next step now is to split these into 2 tracks so that we can work with our guest side along with our native recording or raw recording of our voice. When we installed the Ecamm Recorder, it installed a bundle of programs as well that are super powerful for converting some of these files from movie to MP3, splitting them into different tracks, and a whole bunch more. So let's actually look for the application that already is installed on our Mac to do that split. I'm just going to go into the Launchpad right now, and you see that I've opened up all of the different little programs or applications that come alongside with Ecamm Recorder. The one I'm going to select here is Split Movie Tracks. This opens up a little window here where I'm simply going to take the movie file, drag it into this window. Whiz bang boom, we have two new tracks available to us, track number 1 and track number 2. So it's taken my side of the conversation and Dan's side of the conversation and split it into two separate tracks. Track 2 is Dan's side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and reopen Adobe Audition, or just bring it back up for minimization. I can grab here this second track and just drag it into Adobe Audition. It's going to do a little bit of a conversion, and you can see here now that I have Dan's side of the conversation only. This is fantastic because now I can go ahead and line these up and start manipulating the audio. Now, I should mention that this is the way that I like to do it. This is my workflow, having Audition recording my side and Ecamm responsible for both sides. Then I split it later. However, there is an argument to be made that you can certainly just use Ecamm Recorder and then bring those files into your DAW. And in order to do that, first thing we want to do is actually start a mono track. So I'm going to go up to multi-track here, and I'm going to go track and add a mono track. The reason being is that we don't want a stereo track as our voice, as recorded by Ecamm Recorder, will only come out the left channel. Whereas if we have a mono track, it'll come right down the middle. I'm going to go ahead and take that track number 1, which is our side of the conversation, and drag it onto that new track we created. And here we have it. Let's solo that track so we can have a listen to it. And then initiate the call recording there. And you can see the meter is lighting up on the input section. So the call quality on this side as recorded by Ecamm Recorder is excellent. And again, if you up that to uncompressed, you're going to have uncompressed audio to work with. So you can certainly do it this way if you only want to open the one program. The key is just having that good audio signal going in. I can solo as well Dan's side of the conversation. We can see how they line up. Speak for me a bit, please.
Yes, Corey, I'm happy to say whatever you'd like.
Well, thank you. That's a nice way to work this. The output indicates that Dan, so these guys are lined up now. I can get in and I can do some great manipulation of that audio. I'd like to demonstrate some of the value of working in this particular way with Skype calls, especially when I have these two tracks separated, and what I can do to manipulate in post-production either side of the conversation. I've got soloed right now Dan's side of the conversation, and we've looked at some of these techniques that we can use in Adobe Audition and Specialization 1, and we're going to be looking at it further into the Adobe Audition mastering secrets of the pros. But today, again, I want to just show you a quick tip as to why we do this. Double-clicking on this file is going to open it up, and I see down here that there's a lot of noise, this purple area in the spectral analysis, that we really want to eliminate. I'm going to go ahead and just highlight this guy right now, right-click on it, and capture a noise print. As you guys recall, this basically teaches Adobe Audition what we consider noise in this. I'm going to reduce it down, double-click to highlight the entire thing, go to my effects, noise reduction restoration, and then I'm going to go noise reduction process. And again, I can listen through this a little bit to see if it's doing what I want it to do.
Sure, sounds great.
And it certainly is. Notice how it takes all of that noise away that's happening in between.
Great. Always a pleasure to join you on the show.
And without it, I'm just going to click this off, toggle it off so you can hear the noise. And with.
Great. Always a pleasure to join you on the show.
So this sounds great. Right out of the box, again, Adobe Audition is good at having sort of default presets. We can play around with this a little bit to tweak it, but I'm very satisfied with what we have here. I'm just going to click on Apply, and you'll notice immediately that it's removed a lot of that noise that exists in this signal. And I go back to my multi-track, and now I've got a good clean signal here that I can work with, edit, and manipulate. Let's do a little bit of slicing and dicing of this audio as well to show you why I like to do it this way. I'm just going to unsolo that track. I'm not going to worry so much about my host track that I've recorded raw. Let's just work with the two eCam files right now. So I'm just going to mute that for the moment. And I know that my interview doesn't start until somewhere around the middle. Let's find that point. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining the show today. How have you been? So there it is. I'm going to hold the command key or control key for the Windows guys, and I'm just going to grab onto the side of these two and eliminate the beginning of it. Drag it all the way to the start. Hit my home key. Now let's listen to these two tracks going back and forth a bit. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining the show today. How have you been?
Great. Always a pleasure to join you on the show.
I appreciate this. Today we're doing a little tutorial on Skype call recording. I'm not sure if you do that over there at your studio or not.
We do. It's. I think you probably are a little more professional about it, and
So this sounds great. Again, we're going to look at this in the advanced editing, but hitting my razor tool or hitting the R button, I can go ahead and slice these up into individual sections. Hitting V again gives me my move tool, and I can do all kinds of cool stuff with this now that I have these separated into two tracks and we have a good clean sound coming in on each end. You know, for example, if I want to, I can cinch these a little bit closer together. We looked at this in earlier tutorials, but it's a great way if you want to take the time to do this to really tighten up this interview. Thanks for joining the show today. How have you been?
Great. Always a pleasure to join you on the show.
I appreciate this. Today we're doing a little tutorial on Skype call recording. I'm not sure if you do that over there at your studio or not.
We do. It's. I think you probably are a little more professional about it and a little more up to date on all the ins and outs, though.
Well, that is what we do. So you notice as I'm moving and cinching these together, it sounds like we're really in the same room. I can go into this individual channel now and I can add a little compression. I can do some equalization. But again, that's really the point here, guys, is that giving you these two tracks to work with and manipulate gives you a lot more options in post-production to really make your podcast sound professional, even though you're recording it on Skype. One little pro tip here that I'd love to give you guys before we get away is you'll notice that during the preamble to the recording itself, I had a little back and forth with the guest where he and I spoke. And in order to basically establish the rhythm that we're going to have on Skype, as many people know, depending on internet connections or what kind of mood Skype seems to be in that day, there's varying degrees of quality and latency. And by latency, I mean there seems to be a little bit of a delay. In this case, we had a good connection with the guest, so it was pretty tight going back and forth. However, there are a lot of cases where you say something, there's a long pause, and then you have to wait for them to respond. So creating that little preamble section where you just have a little preliminary conversation for about 2 minutes not only helps them kind of warm up and helps you get a good sound quality, it really helps for the interview itself and creating a flow. You understand how this latency is going to behave and you can kind of adjust as you go as you are a host. We're going to be looking at this especially for interview skills in future specializations where we'll be looking at, how to not step on the guest, how to not create any what's called ducking in Skype either. And this is another thing we'll be looking at down the road is that when you speak over top of the guest, sometimes it will duck. And what it means basically is it will lower the volume of the guest to something that's almost inaudible and cut off or split their answer somewhere in the middle. So we need to create an interview skill process as a host where we really ask a question, receive an answer, and keep our mouths shut during that interview so that we have exactly what we see here, a nice back and forth that we can easily work with in post-production. So hang on for more of those tips and tricks as we go along. For information and transcripts on what we looked at here today, simply head over to podflyacademy.com.